I was looking forward to Warfare because I'm always interested in whatever Alex Garland is going to make next, especially after Civil War, which got a ton of mixed reviews from both critics and audiences, even though I thought it was pretty good, especially in terms of everything when it came to the technicalities of the filmmaking, and especially the sound design was off the charts. And this film is not only directed by Alex Garland, it's co-directed with Mendoza, who was a former Navy SEAL and Iraq War veteran, who was also the military advisor on Civil War. And that's apparently the reason the gunfire looks and sounds as incredible as it does in that movie. So I guess something happened on set. He pitched the idea to Alex Garland, and now we have Warfare. And in case you were wondering, when it comes to me, not a big fan of war. I think it's pretty bad. There are a lot of people that don't like any war movies though. Like they think if you watch a war movie, all of a sudden you're a fan of war. I never understood those people. I think the idea that a lot of war movies are propaganda is probably not the best read on a lot of war movies where people are dying brutally in front of you. Not saying it's not possible to make a propaganda film, obviously, but a lot of people have claimed that Warfare fits in that category, that this is very pro-Iraq war and that this is heavily propaganda, and if you watch this and support this, you support war. And if you're somebody that actually feels that way, you are somebody that has either never seen an Alex Garland movie or never understood an Alex Garland movie. And I don't think anybody is going to end up watching this and be like, oh fuck yeah, that looks really fun. I really want to be in that situation. Because almost the entirety of this movie is about one mission that was a horrifying experience for Mendoza and his SEAL team, but the way the film is portrayed, it kind of gives you the entire picture from both sides a little bit. I mean, obviously you're following the Americans a lot more, but it's not like you're only following American soldiers without spoiling anything. And I think they handled this entire mission in a really interesting way. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's one of my all-time favorites of the year, but I do think it is still really solid. And I think it does a lot of things really great. I got to see this in IMAX, and from a pure technical standpoint, this movie is a beast. It's just loaded with real practical effects, real tension, and there are very few movies that you feel like you are in the combat zone. Like at some points it feels like they brought a Hollywood crew to Iraq and they just documented a firefight. The level of immersion in here is so ridiculously high that even if somebody hated this movie, if they came out and said, oh, it didn't even feel that real, they're full of shit. You shouldn't listen to anything else in their review. And just like Civil War, the use of sound in this movie is by far one of its biggest strengths. Every single explosion and every echo behind it really rattles you if you were able to see this in a theater surrounded by incredible surround sound, especially if you got to see it in an IMAX theater or a Dolby theater. Even the silence hits kind of hard in this movie. And what I mean by that is there are a couple moments, one big moment, but there's a couple times that they do this where you know something is about to happen, but they just expand the time of silence before something crazy goes on. And particularly this one point in the middle of the movie where it just feels like it keeps going. It feels like it's 5 to 6 minutes of tension building and you're just waiting for shit to go wrong. You don't know what's going to go wrong. You're just kind of looking around like, okay, what's going to happen? And then boom. I got jump scared so bad. I swear to God, my ass levitated 2 inches for a second. It was crazy. It was just so hard to not get sucked into what's happening. And at times, it never really felt like it was a movie. And I think a lot of that has to do with the direction from these two guys and the cinematography. The way these two guys film the action is just so well composed. You always know exactly what's happening, even in all of the chaos that they are putting on display. And a lot of people came out saying this is the definitive experience in terms of warfare. Like this is the closest we could get to an actual combat mission. And if that is the case, I guess the Warfare title of the movie is pretty fitting. And in terms of that perspective, I would have a hard time like debating that. Like this is clearly really well done the entire time. I would say there are still a lot of war movies that are more effective than Warfare. Something like Come and See is going to stay ingrained in my mind a lot longer than this one. But in terms of more recent mainstream war movies, like this is definitely a standout in that genre. The performances are also strong across the board. There's nobody phoning in at all. I think the two that stood out to me the most were definitely Cosmo Jarvis and Joseph Quinn. And you could argue that's probably because they have to scream more than anybody else in the movie, but I felt like they both nailed it enough where it got to the point you stopped feeling like you were watching an actor and more so watching somebody deal with pain. And out of the entire cast, those are definitely the two guys that gave me chills the most throughout the movie. But the characters themselves within the story feel one note, and it feels like that is done on purpose. It's very Dunkirk coded in the way that there's not really a scene of them around a fire and they're sharing old pastimes or anything like that. You get like a 2-minute scene of them bonding in the very beginning, and then it's like, bam, we are on this mission with these guys. And for 90 minutes, that is all that is going to matter, which I don't think is a bad approach to telling the story. And I think they do a good enough job at making some people feel distinguishable enough between certain parts of dialogue. And it's not like the dialogue is badly written to the point where you don't care about the characters. You just don't get to know any of these people enough to fully buy in. Like, you do care because obviously, A, this is based on a true story, and B, you don't want people to die in real life, and C, you want the characters to make it out because that's the kind of movie this is. But if you were to ask me anybody's character's name within this movie, I would not be able to tell you a single one. And that's the thing. Warfare is so good at building up tension and showing off a firefight, but it kind of left me feeling a lot more empty than I thought I would once the credits started rolling. I was definitely into it as the mission was playing out, and it definitely felt like a great tech demo for a movie of like, this is how to make a war movie. But once it ended, I kind of just nodded my head and I was like, yeah, that was a good movie. I won't think about that really anytime soon. And I went on with my day. And to be fair to the filmmakers, I don't think they were trying to do anything more than that. I think they did their job in showing like, yeah, you know who the real losers are in war? The people that have to fight on the ground and deal with this shit and take orders from people. And one of the best parts of the movie is when they kind of go against certain orders. I thought that was a really intriguing part of the film, and it's a very quick moment, but I think it sums up both of these people's thoughts on war, and I think overall they did a good job. As of right now, I would say it's definitely one of the most well-crafted movies of 2025, but like I said, I just don't really have a desire to ever revisit this one, and if I would have, it would have had to have been in a theater with the loud sound. If you do have interest in this movie, I think you will enjoy it. If you're into war movies in general, this is a solid one. Just make sure you watch it at a time of day where you can blast the volume on your TV or your headphones, whatever it is. And I guess that's it. So this is Chase. Thank you so much for watching as always. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my video talking about Alex Garland's Elden Ring movie, because that film is going to make or break my hope for the future of cinema.